So we're thinking about sacrifice, which is not the most pleasant thing in the Old Testament, is it? The idea that somehow we appease an angry God, that somehow we buy him off, that somehow we, in his anger, he's pouring out his anger, and somehow we can pay for that. And of course, I know that in the Old Testament things were very different. The Paschal lamb was eaten. It was a party as they came to celebrate Passover, and celebrate was the right word. It wasn't really a sacrifice. It was a shared meal in the presence of God, with all of the God being part of our life in our celebrations and our hardships. There isn't a demand on Cain and Abel to bring an offering, although they do anyway. There wasn't a sacrifice requirement right from the beginning. The most of the offerings were eaten by the priests. It was a way of funding the temple and making sure the tabernacle worked. And we know that God wanted mercy rather than sacrifice, according to Hosea, which is the only one that Matthew quotes, in the only time he mentions sacrifice, and the only time Jesus does, as far as we can see. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. So what really is happening? And the truth comes out in Romans chapter 3 verse 25 and 1 John 4 verse 10, I think, are the two verses. I'll put them in the notes if that's wrong, where it says that God offers Jesus as a sacrifice. God sent Jesus as an atoning sacrifice, and 1 John makes it clear that it's because of his love that he does that. And so somehow we have become the angry God. Somehow we have become the one that needs placating. Somehow we have become the ones that the offering is made to. And I guess that's a bit debatable. Hence the thing at the beginning of the sermon, because most theologies would say that God offers himself the sacrifice, that we offer the sacrifice to an angry God and God placates his anger. But what that does, of course, is split the Trinity. It splits the character of God between his love and his justice, and it creates just a God against us who has to somehow be placated. And of course, that isn't really what the Scripture talks about, is it? The Scripture is much more, I've loved you with an everlasting love. Your name is engraved on my hand. It's more than my life's worth to bless you. Your loving kindness is better than life. All those Old Testament references to God's love, and many, many others. And so the idea is really that we become the gods, and there's a few references to humans being gods in the Old Testament and in our understanding as well, as we have this authority, this lordship, this control. And God somehow offers Jesus as an offering to us for us to accept and for us to eat. And I hope that tonight you'll have an opportunity to just gaze at the cross, to think about Jesus, to worship him, to meditate on him, and see the sacrifice that God has made, the sacrifice that Christ has made in order to know us. And key to that twist, of course, is the idea that sin is breaking a relationship as much as breaking a rule, and that God has restored relationship by his sacrifice. Will you accept it? Will you live in the benefit and blessing of it? Have a great time as you talk about this stuff. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.